Steve Millington joins us in studio on Tuesday mornings. I almost said Wednesday. Tuesday mornings between 8:30 and 9 o'clock right here on News Radio 1310, KLIX, newsradio1310.com. It's 22. Bill Colley with you as well on Top Story. Wednesday mornings we're joined by, I was going to say doctor, and then I said joined, and it came out joined. Dr. Jonathan Tripp, or one of his representatives from Tripp Family Medicine here in Twin Falls, between 8:30 and 9 o'clock. And the doctor, of course, or his associates, they'll talk about some medical issues and take some of your telephone calls if you've got a question or comment. I need to point out, Dr. Tripp's office, still looking for new patients. And often, the operative being often, they can see you on the very same day if you call early in the morning and you have an issue. And I'd like to remind you they're located at the office, Tripp Family Medicine, on Fillmore Street in Twin Falls, directly across from the main post office, and have a great slogan: Life's too short not to feel good. We'd all like to feel better, I know, from time to time. Steve
Yeah,
Millington.
better is the operative word there.
We were just having an off air conversation. I was talking to one of your fellow Republicans here in the county some time ago who said, we have fellow Republicans and conservatives. If you don't agree with them 100% of
You're
the
toast.
time, that they get angry with you and they'll have nothing to do with you.
Yep,
Now,
you're toast.
none of them ever run for office themselves, but they somehow feel that their way is the only way and that there's no compromise. The other day, we had a piece, and I wrote a little short story about it for our website. State Representative Lance Clow, who's one of my representatives in my district, he proposed a change in some traffic laws, 2-lane roads, which means if you're driving down most of the local roads here, 2-lane roads that you could, if you needed to pass somebody who was under the speed limit, you could speed up, and perhaps if it's a 50 mile per hour zone, you could speed up into the low 50s to get around them without risking a ticket. Because of course, going over the speed limit here can get you a ticket anywhere in the state. We're very strict about that. Now the idea is it helps with commerce and it helps people out in these situations. And I have to admit, I'm one of these guys. I'm just so enthralled with the scenery in Idaho. Sometimes I'm driving well under the speed limit, and that might be irritating to somebody behind me who's got to go from point to point into an appointment, and they have to make it on time. So I'm aware of how this works. And I think it's a reasonable, common sense argument that he's making. Some months ago at Pizza Pie Cafe, I was talking with him about traffic issues in this state, and he really is well versed on them. That's one of his areas of expertise. So I wrote the story. I posted it to our website. We posted it then to our Facebook page. And then these two brothers started, apparently, Lance Cloud did something once in some decision he made in the last 15, 20 years in politics where one of them didn't agree, so he's got to be wrong about everything. And then they started saying, he's wasting time. We need to be filling potholes. Well, you can't really fill potholes until the weather gets better, because otherwise the cold patch is going to come up the next
Yep.
cold night. So so that's just that's something you got to
That's
address later on.
that's throwing good money after bad.
Somehow they believe that because you propose some law, you're taking time away from other laws. Look, there's lots of laws we can consider during a session. But I got to tell you, I thought he was spot on with this particular bill, and I'm disappointed that because he doesn't agree with some people 100% of the time on everything 100% of the time, that they take issue with that.
I I don't have a problem with that particular law. I understand some of the parameters. Number one, it is only applicable to 2-lane roads,
Right.
and you can. School districts are exempt. Business districts are exempt. Heavily trafficked areas are. So you're traveling down 3700, which is the county bypass road south of the main. We call it the Castle Ford Blick Freeway back there, and somebody's going 50 miles an hour and you want to get around them, you can't pass them in a safe, reasonable manner at 52 miles an hour. You need to get up to 57 or 50, maybe even 60, pass them, and then pull back in where you belong. And that gives you a spurt to get past them and get back in your lane. You're not conflicting with oncoming traffic. You pull back into your lane, you slow it back down to the 50 to 52, 54 mile an hour range, and you go on down the road. It would be the primary thing that I see is that an officer may clock you at that rate just as you pull back into your lane and you're slowing down. You run the risk of, hey, I just passed that guy, and and I pulled back into my lane, and I just was slowing back down to the acceptable speed. That puts a little bit of a judgment call on officers. Surely they can kind of, well, I shouldn't say that. They should be able to figure that out with not too much difficulty. I don't have a problem with that because you get out of this area, the road between Chalice and Salmon is a 2-lane road. The road between Shoshone and Arco is a 2-lane road.
Hmm.
So you just start looking at some of these 2-lane roads we have around here. For heaven's sakes, from Jerome to Sun Valley is a
Ida-
2-laner.
Idaho Falls to Arco. I mean, I've
Yeah,
taken that trip
that's
before.
right. From Idaho Falls or from Blackfoot out through Arco, and that's all 2-lane roads.
Right.
So let's get the traffic moving, give you an opportunity to pass the slower moving vehicles. Otherwise, you got traffic backed up 8 or 10 deep behind this guy, and then people start doing perhaps foolish and dangerous things.
We've got more on this coming up and a couple of other topics Steve wanted to mention today as well, and some of your telephone calls too. It's 8:40. We're at 21. Bill Colley with you as well on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and newsradio1310.com. Steve Millington joins us in studio on Tuesday mornings between 8:30 and 9 o'clock. Bill Colley with you as well on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and newsradio1310.com. And Steve is chairman of the Twin Falls County Republican Committee. And we should point out, too, as well, a Republican Party. Let's just put it that way. And that would be one and the same in this situation. I was at your meeting last week.
Yes, you were.
Not many other people were.
That was a smaller crowd than normal. The weather was not our friend.
It certainly wasn't that night. There were streets closed around the
Yep, still
around County West.
So yeah, that was not well attended. We get better attendance now. The April meeting will be after the legislature has recessed. Well, I think they'll be recessed by then, for heaven's sakes. And so we always have our quote legislative report unquote, and that will be a packed house.
We wanted to point out you've got a big, I'll get to my callers in just a moment. You have a big event coming up February 25th.
February 25, the annual Lincoln Day dinner held at Canyon Crest. Social hour at 6, dinner at 7. Great lineup. We got Steve Yates, our state chairman. I'm sorry, state chairman is going to be our keynote speaker. We have got several of our state constitutional officers committed already. All of our local legislators have committed. Twin Falls County people, and we do get some spillage from Jerome, and often Kasia will come to be at our meeting.
And I've got a note too as well, just quickly, that when I heard that there would be some prizes, and I heard the word Kimber, I'm going.
We have a drawing. Excuse me. We have a Kimber 9mm. Short. It's not the big, huge, expanded one. It carries a 9 round mag in it. We sell 52 cards, a deck of cards,
Right.
at $20 a piece, and the winning card takes home the gun. And then we also have 2 other guns. We have a 270 caliber rifle that's going to be auctioned off, and we have a fantastic. Ruger has come out with a new. It's called American Farmer Edition.
With an etched stock, right?
The stock is completely etched. I mean, from one end to the other. When I held it in my hands, I thought, gee, many Christmas, don't touch the wood. You could screw up the etching here. It's got a plow on a field and some livestock and the old barn in the backyard. And it's a fantastic gun. It's a 22 mag, and it will be auctioned off. That would be a real prize for somebody to take home. And we got lots of other stuff that we're auctioning off. Anyway, February 25, Canyon Crest Event Center. Come and spend an evening with good food, good friends, and good politics.
We've got a caller with us. Caller, you're up next. You're on KLIX at 8:45.
Yeah, right before the break, you were talking about passing, and again, I agree with some people. I'm not sure it's the best thing to be doing, but the passing situation that really gets me is going down the freeway and having a truck going 68 in the slow lane, and then right before a hill, another truck decides to pass them at 70.
And I got an answer to that, and that also comes from Lance Clow. Lance was telling me at lunch he said that you've got trucks with governors on them that can't exceed certain limits, so they can't even hit 70. Another truck has a 70-mile-per-hour limit, so it's passing the guy doing 64 or 63.
5, yeah.
And then you're on the highway and your limit is 80. So we've got to remedy that. And I think maybe that's the next step for legislators, because it does become a bit of a traffic safety issue.
Yeah, it becomes an issue, and you see it. It used to be that you could drive from here to Boise and it wasn't too tough. But lately, when you get on the freeway and you're going from here to Boise, truck traffic is, of course, everything we buy and use is delivered on. Well, not everything, but most of it is now by truck. Train has a logistics problem in that it takes too long to get it from point A to point B, when I can load it in a truck and it can be there in 36, 48 hours. So lots and lots of truck traffic, and that's something that is going to, it was well thought out when they did it. Events, conditions, circumstances have changed, requiring a review of our previous decision. And there's nothing wrong with what we did. It's just that it under new circumstances, they need to be reviewed.
We have a caller.
Okay, let's
you're
have
up
another
next.
one.
Go ahead.
Good morning, gentlemen. Now I have two comments to your last guy. I am a truck driver, and I know it's irritating to the car guys, but they have to understand that trucks run on momentum, and when the truck in front of you is going slower and you try to pass, you're trying to keep your momentum up, because if you lose that momentum, it takes miles and miles to get it back where a car can accelerate in a split second. And sometimes it's inconsiderate. But it is hard. But as far as passing, I thought the yellow lines down the center, double, single, broken, is telling you when and when you can't pass. Somehow something just doesn't sound right in this law coming up. But you shouldn't be passing at high rates of speed no matter what. But if you have a double solid line, you're allowed to pass in a reasonable manner, safety, and then resume the normal highway speed or speed at that moment. And that is already lost, so I don't understand.
That's a good point. Maybe Representative Clow's idea is to clarify that somewhat, but our caller's correct. I think you can pull out to pass, you accelerate to make your pass, and pull back in and go back to your normal traffic flow. So that's an interesting point.
We'll squeeze in one last caller on this subject, but Steve has some other issues he wants to bring up today as well. Caller, you're up next at 8:48 on KLIX. Well, we're going to try this caller then. You're on the air on KLIX and News Radio 1310.com. Go ahead.
Hey, good morning. I'll make this real quick. I'm not originally from here, and that's the way I was taught. Is when you pass, you speed up to go around the car because it's safer. So I just want to make that comment. I'll let you go.
That's a good point. I got I got pulled over not too long ago. The speed limit was 50. I was tired of 50 miles an hour, and I gunned it to go past this guy and around him and pulled back in. And all of a sudden, you get that wonderful Christmas tree in your rearview mirror. So, crud. So I pull over and stop. You were going 58. And I said, I just passed the guy. He was only going 50. And I pulled back in. I didn't hit the brake. I just let it coast back down to under 55 miles an hour. And he said, well, you need to be real careful about that. That's, you were actually going 58 in a 50 zone. And I was just passing the guy. So maybe we do need a little clarification so that they don't pull me over and say, hey, buddy, what do you think you're doing here? Okay. Let's talk about a couple of other things. We have a tax cut that the legislature has proposed. It's passed the House of Representatives. Net, the number that seems to be surfacing all the time is about $50 million a year in income tax reductions. On average, it's somewhere south less than $50 per household. All you have to do is get on a county-maintained road, a highway district road, even Twin Falls City roads, and they have gone to pot this winter because, let's face it, it's been an extraordinary winter.
Wicked conditions.
The conditions have just been, and when temperatures dropped down well below zero for several days, and they were snow packed, and now they're starting to get our thaw, and we haven't seen the good one yet. It normally doesn't get here till the first part of March, and then you're going to see the highway signs go up, and it's going to say thaw conditions, truckers slow down, everybody slow down. Well, let's take the $50 million, put it to the transportation department with the earmark,
Now,
that
Clark,
it goes to county and city highway districts for road maintenance.
Clark Kaufman has he's touched that third rail. He suggested another increase in the gasoline tax.
You know, and Clark was formerly a member of the Filer Highway District Board, and so he can appreciate the demands that we have on local highways.
We have to pay for it somehow. It's not going to be done by snapping fingers.
And that the tax cut thing, $50 million, forget it. Let's put it into highway maintenance, local highway maintenance. Don't give it to the Department of Transportation for them to spend. Send it to the local highways. The Murtaugh Highway District, the Twin Falls Highway District, the Filer Highway District, the Buell Highway District, the Jerome Highway District, the Wendell Highway. In Wendell, it's called, I don't remember what it's called, Wendell Highway District. And let them rebuild some of these roads that are really been trashed. And you know, we look at the flood damage. The county issued a emergency declaration, and so they'll be able to get some money from other sources, either state or federal, to help with disaster relief things. And so the washout on River Road, where Deep Creek went across River Road and washed that thing completely out. Okay, let's get some federal money and rebuild that road. But the rest of the time, just coming down my country road from my home into downtown, not downtown, into Buell, where I get on Highway 30 and come to town. You're playing dodgems.
Yeah.
The whole, it's a 3 mile deal, and you think that you have been on an endurance track, trying to get around the potholes and the yuck. So let's give the money back to the local highway districts and have them fix the mess that we got this year.
And then what other area you want to talk about this morning?
Teacher salaries.
Yeah.
Everybody's always, with teacher salaries. I'm not a big fan of give the education people unlimited amounts of money. I do understand that school districts are facing a real problem with hiring and retaining good qualified personnel in the state of Idaho. So here's some ammunition for the education contingency. There was a thing this morning that said average teacher wages across America. I didn't look at all of them. Well, I did too, because Wyoming is the very last one on let's say that's number 50. Alabama's number 1. Arizona, let me back up. I'm do this different. Stay with me just a minute here. California, $72,000. I'm going to throw that one out. It's
not a lot of money though with that cost of living.
It's an outlet, and that's right. That's an outlier. Excuse me, but not too many of us want to go to California. So, all right, that's done. So I'll try to sort through these. If I get one out of sequence, please don't shoot me. Washington State, 61,100. Oregon State, 59,800. There's Washington and Oregon, our neighbors on the west. Wyoming, 59,100. That's our neighbor on the east. Utah, 54,900. That's our neighbor to the south. That's a big number. Keep that Utah number in mind, 54,900. Nevada, 54,300. Okay, that's to our east and south. Montana, 52,500. Colorado, 51,400. Arizona, 43,800. Idaho, 47,000. That's an average teacher wage. Now you go down that list. I forgot. I was going to do the 11 Western states. I forgot New Mexico. Shame on me.
Everybody does.
Okay, fine. So I got 10 of them on here. Okay. Throw California out. They don't count. Washington and Oregon then become number 1, number 2. Idaho becomes number 9 out of the 10 listed, and the only lower number is Arizona. And I'm sure that New Mexico was right up there. They'd be ahead of us. So we look at this number and we say, okay, gee whiz, this is average wages. The newbie coming in, the high school graduate, they're going to start. I think the new number is like $36,000 or $37,000 a year. That's 10,000 below average, which means that we got more than a few teachers who are making well above the $47,000 a year because they have been here an extended period of time. They've got some tenure. They've got the step and ladder thing where they've got additional education. They've got additional continuing education credits, and that qualifies them for uh, additional wage increases. So our teacher salaries, I can understand better why school districts have so much problem trying to hire teachers and retain teachers. Now, I know an individual who is has a doctorate degree in education, and he works at a university here in Idaho, and he is over the School of Education. And he said every year when we get our graduates, he said we have three states come to Idaho and make a full-fledged, full-court press for our graduates. And those 3 states are Utah, Wyoming, and Nevada. And he said they come in here like crazy and recruit. And who do they start with? The highest qualified, most academically successful students. And what does Idaho get? Whatever's left.
We have to say that's whatever's left of the half hour, but I thank you for coming in today.
Thank you.
We covered a lot of ground in a half an hour's time.
And sometimes we get it done and sometimes it isn't nearly enough time, but we got plenty for you. Hey, everybody have a great day. We'll see you next week.
And wanted to mention, speaking of Steve's, Lieutenant Colonel Steve Howell joining us just after 9 o'clock news this morning. Going to be talking a little flag etiquette related to when you lower the flag to half staff, and is it being done too much? That'll follow 9 o'clock news from Fox. Bill Colley with you as well on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and NewsRadio1310.com.